Just as expected, the war between humans and vampires ended with the victory of vampires. In an effort to strike back, human refugees in the Holy Land Bahal successfully create an undying corpse knight, attached to a power source that can sustain him. Gunther, former gladiator and now corpse knight, is humanity's last hope. The scene opens with the humans kneeling in front of vampires. The king offers his crown and apologizes for the wrongdoings of their ancestors. Can they spare his life? However, the vampire leader kills the king and his head falls in front of the other. A panic grows among the people and the vampire leaders tell others to finish humans off. Soon, a huge massacre happened all over the globe and only a few remained. The vampire says they will quickly end this and they shouldn't be scared of death. It will only hurt for a short while. The humans get ready as the vampire approaches them. A girl says that they don't have much time left. God appeared in her dreams and told her that they would send a hero to save humanity. The vampire asks why is she talking like that, and the other vampire assures him there's no need to worry. There will be no tomorrow for them. He dashes forward and humans say they must protect the kids. The man charges forward and tries to kill him, but the vampire gets behind him and kills him. Another human charges forward but he deals with her too. The remaining person standing cries in despair and he gets killed as well. An old man charges from behind and tries to cut him through. However, the vampire stops his attack with bare hands. He smiles and breaks his sword, killing him as well. He then looks over the kids and says that he'll kill them as painlessly as possible. He readies his sword when he hears someone calling out to him. A knight emerges from the dust with top armor. A vampire asks if he's a human. However, the other replies that he doesn't smell like a human, but more like a corpse. The knight starts advancing slowly and then dashes forward with force. The vampire asks how he dares to rush at them without fear. The knight closes the gap and gets ready to punch him. He demolishes one vampire and when the dust clears the other vampire notices that he jumped 10 meters in one go. The knight gets up after demolishing the vampire. The second vampire gets serious and charges at him. He strikes the knight's chest and asks why didn't he avoid it. He pierced his heart, so he should be dead by now. However, the knight grabs him by the head and the vampire keeps saying that he pierced his heart, then how come he's alive? The knight kills the vampire with a fist to his chest. The girl says that the hero has arrived. The knight looks around and sees everything is clear. He instructs the kid to walk 5 kilometers straight and they will find a shrine there. The girl keeps asking if he's a hero, she saw him in her dreams. Knight asks if they consider him a hero. He takes off his helmet and asks if he looks like a hero to them. The kids get horrified at seeing his face. The knight's nose fell and he thinks it keeps falling off. The kids scream in fear, saying that he's a monster. In reality, he's the immortal knight fighting off the vampires. A while ago a few people entered the tunnel wearing masks. They see a knight who died while standing. They ask if he's the Gunther and the other man agrees. He played 228 games and won all of them. He's the greatest warrior of this age and the last gladiator who can beat the vampire. One man asks if it's okay to bet their future on him. The other man replies that he should just trust him. He asks the status of the corpse and the man replies that decomposition has progressed a lot, but it's still tolerable. The girl takes off her mask and thinks that in these desperate times, they need a hero who could live forever. Gunther dreams about standing on a pile of defeated people, and a voice congratulating him on doing a good job. He's the survivor this time too. Soon Gunther opens his eyes and the people call it a success. Gunther wonders what is happening, he's sure that he died. The girl agrees, but they revived him for the sake of saving humankind. Gunther looks confused and the man tells others to bring in the mirror. Once he sees himself in the mirror, he asks if he's a monster. The girl replies that he isn't the monster but the last hope of humanity. The other man says that he has a special device called a life-maintaining device in his head. Unless the device inside his brain gets destroyed he won't die, even if his body explodes or his limbs fly away. What's even more amazing is that his body can be modified. These limbs are made using special artificial muscles. They can generate 10 times more power than a normal human being. With this superior physical ability, he can fight high-level vampires on equals. Gunther asks if they brought him back to life so that he could fight vampires. The girl agrees, he's the most suited person after all. So, he should at least fight with them together for the sake of saving humanity. Gunther thinks that a hero who could save humans is cool, but he has one condition. Can they come closer and listen? The man says they will agree to whatever his condition is unless it's positive. Gunther grabs the man between his broken thighs. Gunther then puts his condition, they should stop talking and get him out of here right now. How do they know that he'll become the best warrior? He has no hesitation when it comes to killing people. Humans are similar to vampires, they are narrow-minded and selfish. He can't believe he is being hanged like this while being told to save humanity. The only thing that matters to him is his life, not others. So, if they don't want to see this man's head popping off, they should put his arms and legs together, and let him leave. He increases the pressure and the man suffers pain. The girl hurriedly looks at his clock and Gunther asks if she wants to know when her friend will die. The girl replies that he doesn't have much time remaining. Gunther asks what she's talking about, while she does the countdown. As time hits 0, he feels immense pain in his head. He loses consciousness and lets go of the man. They say he's alive and dangerous as expected. Later, Gunther wakes up and the man tells him not to go wild like before. He asks why is he still here and the man replies that anything that moves needs power. The power that moves his body is the life of a human being. Gunther asks what she's doing with a tube inserted in her chest. The girl replies that he's connected to her through this device. He needs to be injected with life to move. When his connection with her is cut off, it's the time that he can't move. He'll only have 2 hours without a connection. 2 hours, he calls it nonsense. The man says that this reaction was expected because this is what the authors came up with. This is a project they were working on to save humanity. People who have these devices transplanted are called motorized humans. From the hundreds of volunteers, the only successful transplant was just Aryan. It's hard to develop such devices and maybe Aryan will be the only powered human. Gunther says that it's BS again. The man says that he wants to save his life, not others. Well, without Aryan, he would only have life for 2 hours. Does he wish to be destroyed along with humans, or fight vampires to protect Aryan? He should make his choice now. Suddenly, a person barges in and says they have a big problem. The man asks what's more important than reviving Gunther. He says that the vampires have invaded the place. As soon as he says that, a vampire kills him from behind. They talk about bringing all the men, women, and their valuables to their place. They say there are a lot of humans to take. The man thinks that there are still some vampires remaining here. Another man asks what they should do now. Gunther tells them to quickly connect his arms and legs if they want to live, and the man obliges. The old man instructs others to distract the vampire while he connects his limbs. They reply they aren't good at fighting and he should fight them instead. The man asks if they are disobeying his command. It's an order, so they should stop their BS and fight them. The person says that it's just 4 of them, they don't need a commander. Plus, they don't want to die. Aryan picks up the weapon and says she'll buy them some time. So, they should attach his limbs. Gunther panics and asks why is she going. He screams at her to get back. Aryan soon approaches the vampire with her crossbow. They say she's quite brave to face them alone. They are superior in every aspect compared to them. Aryan fires the arrow at him but he stops it with his hands. She gets ready with another set and says they talk too much. The vampire gets annoyed and charges at her. Aryan fires an arrow but he dodges it. He closes the distance and kicks her. He grabs her by the neck against the wall. He says that she looks quite beautiful from up close. The other vampire rushes in and asks if she's beautiful, but the first one tells him to get lost. The second retorts, saying he already has 2 people from the last time. They both start quarreling among themselves and Gunther asks if they are done with their BS. He kicks one vampire in the face and sends him through the walls. Gunther looks at Aryan and picks her up by the face. He asks if she's crazy, she should treasure her body as it's connected to him. Aryan asks who would have distracted them if not for her. The vampire gets back and says that she belongs to him. The vampire adjusts his head and Gunther asks if don't they die when their head's broken. Aryan tells him to aim for their heart. Otherwise, they will keep regenerating. The vampire charges forward and Gunther throws Aryan back for safety. The vampire attacks him but sees that he's unaffected. Gunther smirks at this and the vampire asks how this is possible. He punches him in the face. The second vampire uses the opportunity to run past Gunther. He goes for Aryan and says that she belongs to him. However, Gunther jumps and slams him with his head. The man says that this is amazing, the vampires look less overpowered when they fight them with that body. Thanks to his modified body the power is superior, but the speed is significantly lower than a human. However, he's adapting with his unique tactics to keep with them, and aiming for their heart. Aryan feels that Gunther is enjoying his fight. Gunther grabs the vampire and says he roughly knows how to use this body. The vampire says that humans created a monster. Gunther laughs at this and says that's not a good last wish. He stops Gunther from attacking and says he has a suggestion that he'll surely like. Gunther asks what his suggestion is. The vampire says that they are born from Sir Bengal's blood and he's not far away. If he kills him here then he'll come here in 1 hour for revenge. If he faces Bengal then he wouldn't be able to endure 1 minute. Gunther asks why would he take revenge for them and the vampire replies that he loves them. Only Bengal loves them in this world, and if they hand him over that girl, others can go quietly. Gunther looks back and ponders over the decision. He replies he could take the bald guy behind him instead, but the vampire says that he's ugly. Gunther finally kills him with a fist to his heart. Soon enough he grabs the second vampire and kills him as well. Gunther asks who this guy named Bengal is. Aryan explains that he's a high-ranking vampire. Vampires are divided into 3 large groups based on their breed. A pureblood vampire becomes a vampire when they are born. Pureblood vampires can give birth to high-rank vampires with their blood. Similarly, high-rank vampires give birth to low-rank vampires. The ones he just killed are low-rank vampires. High-rank vampires are small in number and vulnerable to sunlight, but they can use their blood to make unique weapons. They are very powerful and beyond human common sense. The man asks if hasn't he heard what that vampire just said. Bengal will come here in 1 hour. Gunther asks if he believes his words. The man says he's not sure, but they should get ready in case he appears. Also, there's no place to run away at this hour. Aryan asks Gunther if he'll fight vampires with them. She wants a clear answer. Gunther replies that the most important thing is his life. However, looking at the current situation he doesn't have many options. He'll work together with them for now. Aryan thanks him and says humanity won't forget his noble choice. Gunther tells her to connect him to the power supply before it's too late. Aryan says they have a present for him before that. Gunther puts on the armor and looks at himself in the mirror. The man says that he looks cool in it. He chose those clothes through many drafts and it's like a dead hero just revived. However, Gunther says that this suit is lame. Aryan says that the chain on top of his armor is refined mithril. Since he lacks speed and agility compared to vampires, so he'll surely get beaten during fights. This will help him reduce the damage. Also, if he looks at his wrist, he can see the power indicator. It will inform him how long he can move before cutting off. He should monitor it from time to time. He asks if 2 hours is the limit and she confirms it. Suddenly, they hear a loud sound from above. The man asks what it could be. More sounds come from above and Gunther says that they are coming down. The man says that 40 minutes haven't passed yet, so what is coming down? Gunther tells them to cut the connection. If the enemy comes in, he needs to know the direction of coming and escaping. Aryan says this place is a cemetery where he lived. So, the entrance and exit are only through that gate. Gunther says that this is BS and Aryan apologizes as it was done urgently. Gunther puts on his helmet and advises them to stay behind him and follow his words. He looks toward the door with sounds increasing rapidly. Some vampires peek through the door and say hi. They ask if they are the humans who killed his family. Gunther steps up and asks if he's referring to those 2 vampires. He's the one who handled them. The vampire says that he's a great human subject then. They were ugly and didn't receive their parents' love, he feels bad for them. He asks them to forgive those vampires last time. Gunther asks if he's Bengal, his mental screw seems a little loose. The man steps up and asks if he's Bengal's collector and he agrees. He apologizes for killing their family, but they were the ones who killed their friend first. At this point, they should forget their grudges and talk this out. How about they go their separate ways? The vampire says that the sun will rise soon, so it's okay. However, they should apologize as they already swore to Sir Julius that all of the humans should be killed in this world. Gunther says that this response was expected. Is he okay without his unworthy family? Apparently, it's a little hard to handle him alone. The vampire laughs at this and says he speaks interesting words. The reason low-rank vampires exist is to protect the high-rank ones from sunlight. If there's no sunlight then no one can kill them. The faces duplicate themselves and form a lot of copies. Gunther feels scared at the monstrosity. He asks where he should aim for this vampire. Aryan replies that his faces seem to be combined using blood. There must be a main body among those faces. If they can destroy the main body's heart then they will win. The vampire charges at Aryan and Gunther saves her just in time. Gunther asks how is he moving fast with such a big body. He instructs her to go to a safe place. Aryan says there's no point in fighting if they don't know his main body. Gunther replies they will find his main body then. The vampire corners one human and soon charges at him. However, Gunther comes in clutch and punches him. The vampire looks in astonishment and Gunther soon starts beating the vampire. Even though he doesn't know where his main body is, it won't stop him from attacking. The people take cover behind the boxes from the ongoing massacre. The man asks if he's crazy to think he can win against a high-rank vampire. The vampire says that he's strong. They can't believe that a knight has such incredible powers. The question is if he's a human or not. Gunther asks what they'll do even if they know. He smashes at the vampire but they catch his hand in his mouth. They say their biting strength is stronger than him. Once he gets bitten, he can never escape. Gunther lifts his other hand to punch, but the vampire grabs that as well. They hold all 4 limbs down and say they will show him something special. Inside him is the real hell. Gunther remembers his childhood when his parents abandoned him. He cried a lot, hoping that someone would come for him. However, nobody showed up for days and he stopped crying. Then he found something. It wasn't his parents' warmth, or someone willing to help him. He learned how to survive on his own in this cruel world. The vampires bite down Gunther and he thinks they have a lot of strength. He wonders if they completely bite his arms and legs. He needs to find a way to escape. He looks above and around but can't see an escape. He thinks his only choice is from below. However, he doesn't know how many layers the face is stacked up, so his chance is low. Suddenly, he hears someone calling vampires dirty. He tells them to come and fight him. These folks were human once but now they are part of Bengal. They tell Gunther to just give up. Bengal pats the man's head and says that he fought vampires alone to save over 100 people. However, now he's just one of his collections. Gunther says that the people he captured have some kind of strength. The vampire agrees. These are the collection of heroes who sacrificed themselves to save humanity. Their noble sacrifice and spirit will remain here until the end of mankind. He asks if that sounds beautiful. Gunther says that it's a meaningful act. However, his face isn't so beautiful for collection. The vampire says that's not true. His strength, and will is best among all the heroes he has faced. He shouldn't refuse his offer. Gunther repeats himself that he's not a good-looking guy. The vampire asks if he's that ugly, and Gunther encourages him to check it by himself. The vampires remove his helmet and say that he looks like a monster. Gunther replies that he doesn't know what living a monster life is like. So, can he go now? The vampire says that he can't leave this place. How can he live with that face? Gunther replies he also thought of some way to leave before he came. He says he isn't the only one with the teeth. He chomps down one vampire with his teeth. The vampire asks if he can go out of here because he can bite. No one has managed to leave this place. Gunther, while chewing down another vampire, says that normal rules don't apply to him. He says that no matter what happens, he'll certainly live as a human. Outside, the people wonder what's happening inside there. Reno says that's the reason he can't save them. If hadn't they wanted to make a corpse night, they wouldn't have come here. The humankind is now ruined. Aryan points to the falling vampires from the pile and says that he's here. Gunther makes his way out by punching through the vampires. Reno quickly changes his tone and says that he always believed in him. Once Gunther gets down on the floor, the vampire attacks him again. Gunther dashes towards them and the man asks what happened to his leg. He replies they don't have a chance to win, so they need to change their plan. The man asks what his new plan is while he picks up Aryan. He tells them to escape from that bastard until the sunrise. Reno gets shocked at hearing his response. The vampire attacks their hiding place and Gunther saves themselves just in time. He uses his hand to push himself further. Aryan says that there are some extra artificial legs that she brought for preparation. There are also a few incomplete body weapons that she didn't tell him about. Gunther replies that they don't have time to replace his limbs. First, they need to widen the distance between them and advise her to hold tight. Gunther uses his arm to dash forward. The vampire looks at Aryan's face and says it's beautiful. The vampires start going crazy over her, saying that she belongs to them. Gunther says they are very interested in her. He asks how many hours they have left until sunrise, and she replies about 5 minutes. He says that the exit is empty and they need to hide until they see a chance. Suddenly, they hear screams. The vampire finds the other people and Reno begs Gunther to save them. The monster soon starts biting down the metal bar. Gunther says their sacrifice is inevitable. They will get out of here quietly while they act as bait. That's the selection she needs to make for the future of humankind. However, Aryan ignores him and tells the vampire that she's here. Gunther sighs and thinks that she's a crazy woman to do that. The vampire soon rushes towards her and Gunther saves her just in time. He says that they would have saved them if they got a chance. He's frustrated with all of this. They'll escape this together. Gunther dashes towards the exit and makes it out before the vampire bites him. He hits the wall behind the exit and soon rushes forward while the vampire chases him. The vampire asks why don't they become a part of him. They climb upstairs and Aryan says they are almost there. However, the vampire holds Gunther's arms and tells him to join them. Gunther crushes his own arm and tells them to get lost. He makes his way up with only one arm. They soon reach outside and he sees the sun rising. Suddenly, he hears Aryan screaming. The vampire managed to get a hold of her and says they finally got her. He takes Aryan inside while Gunther screams at him. The scene shifts to a vampire head catching fire in the sunlight. Multiple vampires burn as the sunlight approaches them in front of a cave. Inside the cave, the vampire asks Bengal if he's alright. Bengal says that his revenge for their beloved family failed. The reason is that a knight looking like a monster appeared. The low-ranking vampire says that's okay, they'll always be together and can take revenge later on. Bengal tells them that they can't deal with the knight. He'll personally take care of him. Another Bengal's head says that they need more face. The vampire presents them with 34 people they have captured. Bengal says that there are quite some lovely faces and he'll take the 2 in front. He thanks the low-ranking vampires for working hard. However, she's the one whom he likes the most. He tells her not to be afraid, he'll put her inside of him soon. She'll be with him until the end of humankind. The scene shifts to Gunther screaming to connect his limbs faster. Reino tells him not to whine, he isn't the type of person he could put pressure on. He looks at his remaining time and says how could he not be angry. He asks if there's some way to come back to life without her. What if they develop another power human? Reino says that he skipped a lot of meals to make a motorized human. Gunther asks if the development of the powered human would take a few years then. The man tells him that if Aryan dies, then he won't survive for now. He doesn't know how complicated the engineering behind the device is, which could bring dead alive. If the corpse is degenerated to a certain degree then there's no use. According to his calculations, his body will degenerate after 3 days. Gunther says that 3 days is too little, can't he come back to life after that, and the man disagrees. So, he needs to save Aryan ASAP. Development of another source of energy is not possible until the next couple of years. So, without her, he's doomed to die. Gunther sighs, he doesn't understand how they made something like that, but he has no other choice. The man says he can't tell him how it works as he doesn't trust him much. The man connects both of his legs and says he's good. Gunther asks why the sound is coming from his right arm. The man says he has prepared something special for his right arm. Earlier, he had difficulty fighting Bengal in the close quarter. So, they have a long-range weapon but it's still under development. Gunther looks at the weapon and smirks. Back in the cave, the vampire pushes the human to become part of Bengal. Bengal welcomes him with open arms. He tells him not to be scared as it won't hurt. He places his hand on his face and he envelopes him with his blood. He covers his whole face with it and decapitates his head. He holds the man's head and it turns into the crazy vampires like others. The humans grow terrified on seeing it. Bengal says that she's next on the line. From now on, they'll become one. Bengal looks into her eyes and says she has great determination. He approaches her and says he likes these kinds of eyes. The most fun part is when the eyes realize the truth and get imbued with fear and regret. Aryan says that she's aware of the truth. The truth is no one has saved his heart so far. Bengal says she's speaking interesting words. Once she joins him, he'll make her say the same thing over and over again. Bengal soon extends his hands towards her. Suddenly, a human charges at him. He proclaims he waited for the moment when he let his guard down. He aims for his hands and tells him to die. A few moments later, the man is crying in pain as the Bengal's faces holds him down. The vampire apologizes for letting him escape, but he tells them not to worry as it's just a minor incident. The person says that he failed to kill him, but one day a hero will appear and slay him. The will of mankind won't die. Bengal says that he's speaking interesting words. It's always interesting to meet a great hero like him. The man asks if he's interesting and Bengal agrees. He thinks that sacrificing his life is noble. Like humans, vampires believe eradicating inferiors is noble. The man says that he'll never understand their belief. Bengal shows him his hands and asks if he can see how horrible it is. His hand became like this because he saved people from a burning house. He can't forget the heat that made him hard to breathe and the pain of melting flesh. He also shared his fair amount of time saving people. But does he know what he got in return? Compliment of hero? People's respect? Nothing like that. He only got people's disdain and cynicism. The reason they hated him is because his face is like this. Even the man finds Bengal's face disgusting. Bengal says his eyes tell him everything. Even the lives he saved showed him the same disgusting look. Gradually, people started to hate him and his existence vanished. They didn't want to see a monster like him anywhere. He thinks he became like this because he made mistakes. The reality is he sacrificed himself for humans. Bengal covers his face back again. The act of sacrificing oneself for others is useless. It'll only make a little scar for them. The man says that even though he has a rough past, he's still a killer. Killer, you say? Someday, he'll figure out that this act of sincerity is useless. He extends his hand toward the man's face to kill him. Suddenly, someone says that he spoke some trash words. Bengal's hand gets cut off by a projectile. Gunther took that shot from far away. He asks what's wrong with its accuracy. The projectile flies recklessly. Reino replies that it's under development, so it's not perfect. Aryan feels relaxed about seeing Gunther here. He says that he's glad that she's still alive, he could kill more vampires now. Bengal asks if he's crazy to come here and wants to die. Gunther says that he'll be one to die today. He doesn't have time, so they should quickly start the second round. It won't be over until one of them dies. The long-range weapon Gunther has is made from bison's bone and spines. These muscles are special in pulling and pushing. They slowly gather strength to the limit when it's pulled. Once it gathers enough strength, it will make the bone launcher attack. The destructive power and speed are far more powerful than a ballista. However, it takes a bit longer to pull out the maximum strength. The disadvantage is that they only have 6 pieces of spine to launch as a weapon, after which it will completely become useless. Gunther says that the downside is manageable. He only needs to keep his distance while fighting Bengal. The man says that no matter what he must kill Bengal. The sun is up so they can run away from him. However, they can't run away if they face low-rank vampires as they are immune to the sunlight. Moreover, he won't be able to charge his weapon when he moves fiercely. If his body stops moving while fighting low-rank vampires, they would be done for. However, if he kills the high-rank vampire, the low-rank ones will die automatically. So, they need to kill Bengal in a short time. Gunther understands it and tells them not to worry. They might die, so he'll go first. He proclaims that they will certainly live. Gunther thinks that it's not too hard to follow their trail, but the main problem is that he only has 15 minutes remaining. He needs to make him scared. Bengal asks if that disgusting weapon is the one he launched earlier. He came quite prepared for this. However, the barricade he can build with his faces won't be able to pierce him. Gunther shoots another projectile at him, missing him just by a few inches. The projectile is powerful as it pierces through every layer of Bengal's defense. Gunther sighs and thinks that he missed again. He doesn't know how to shoot this thing. However, next time he'll aim for his heart. Bengal instructs his minion to bring him more faces and leave this place. However, they talk about protecting his life as that's the reason they exist. Bengal gets touched by it and the low-ranking vampires charge forward. For punks like him, they'll take care of him for Bengal. As the vampire approaches, Gunther prepares his other hand. He attacks him and says his will is as hard as steel. He demolishes one vampire. However, another one sneaks past him from behind. He tries to choke Gunther and says they must protect Bengal. Gunther grabs the vampire's face and crushes it, saying that he doesn't have enough power. He tosses the vampire away while Bengal's face attacks him. He uses his legs to propel himself forward and evade the attack. Another vampire rushes forward and says that they must grab his leg. As Gunther lands, more vampires charge at him, but he easily kills them all. He crushes another one, saying they won't be able to save their life. A dying vampire clutches Gunther's leg and says that Bengal is the only that treats them as family. He'll protect him with his remaining life. Soon enough the faces bit down Gunther's head. He asks if the sensation of his teeth on his head feels great. He'll chew him from the top first. However, Gunther launches another projectile at him, cutting the link between Bengal and faces. He then kicks the vampire and makes his escape. He thinks he only has 3 shots left and should be careful. How is he supposed to locate Bengal among those faces? They all look the same to him. Suddenly, Arian starts shouting Bengal's name, and Gunther wonders what she's up to. The vampire tells her to keep quiet and don't interrupt their master. At the same time, a vampire dashes forward and tries to cut Gunther, stating that no one can break their strong will. Gunther kills him by striking his heart and flees before Bengal attacks him. He wonders if Arian has gone crazy. She keeps shouting Bengal's name. Soon enough, Gunther realizes what she's doing. The vampire tells her to keep quiet. Can't she understand that? She still shouts that he's a terrible monster. Bengal says that whatever she does is pointless now. She tells Gunther to take a closer look. It's a small face, but it reacts and moves quickly. The faces that react first are closer to him. The vampire shuts her mouth with his hand. He was taking her BS because Bengal liked her. If she goes any further then he'll rip her tongue off. Gunther fires another shot, piercing through him once again. He thinks he'll aim better this time. He looks closely at the faces that react quickly. He pinpoints his location and fires another shot at him. Bengal, acting confident, says that he won't be able to do anything once he runs out of ammunition. He can fight him inside the faces. Suddenly, he notices something odd with the faces. When he looks back, he notices his blood vessels have been destroyed. The connection to the faces is now cut off as a result. Gunther thinks he only has 2 more shots left and says he'll give him everything. He fires another one while vampires rushes towards him. The shot destroys Bengal's right arm and he panics. Gunther gets ready for the last shot, and the vampires say they must stop him. They pile up on Gunther, but he still manages to fire his last shot. The attack hits Bengal's face. However, he still lives. He says he couldn't crush his heart and has failed. It's only a matter of time before he grows his body back. Arian says that it's a failure. She tells Gunther to destroy the device in his head as he doesn't have enough time. However, Gunther says that this isn't a failure. Even though he has very little remaining time, he still has 1 final shot left. She asks how he has 1 more left. He leaps into the air and says that the last one is his punch. He goes for the final blow while Bengal is regenerating. The scene shifts to Bengal's past. He thinks that the reason he applied for civil service is because it's the most noble job in the world. Just like his father, he aspired to become a hero. However, after the incident, his face was distorted due to the fire. A boy throws a rock at him, calling him a monster. He's ugly and should go away. Deep down he wondered if the sacrifice his father made was worth it or not. They treat him like a monster because his appearance has changed. Was it worth sacrificing himself? He didn't know what he should have done. He realized how naive he was. A pureblood vampire approached him and placed his hand on his head. He says he has been watching him for a long time and wants to create a new world. The process will be rough and painful, so he needs help from someone like him. He asks what kind of world and the vampire explains everything. After understanding the terms, he agrees to become one of them. At the present moment, Gunther strikes Bengal's heart. He says that it's his win now. Bengal in his dying moments thinks he wanted to become a hero. How could he become a hero who has the face of a monster? The low-rank vampires also perish away with their master. Soon enough Gunther's remaining time gets complete and he falls unconscious. Later, the humans rescue the refugees and Gunther. Gunther wakes up and asks where he is. He asks if he killed Bengal. Arian tells him to stay still while the power is connected and he apologizes. She thanks him for the hard work and all the human lives he saved today. Even Reno is amazed at his capabilities to kill the high-rank monster. Gunther says that it was a close call. He asks if low-rank vampires also died and he agrees. He asks if everything could be solved by killing the pureblood vampire and Reno believes that to be the case. Arian says that the last pureblood vampire, Julius, is nowhere to be seen after he killed the emperor. He asks if the pureblood vampires are supposed to be super strong. She doesn't know the answer as she has never seen them get involved in fights before. Gunther says that this sounds strange. Vampires need human blood to stay alive, so why are they killing all the humans? Reno says he found it strange too. For now, they should fight to protect themselves. Arian says they'll go to head office for more details of the story. Gunther asks if there's still a city left. Reno says that it's only one. That place is a holy land and survivors gather there. It's also the place where they conduct various research and experiments on his body. It's the last land for humankind which hasn't fallen for 100 years. Gunther finds it interesting and Reno says they are almost there. He tells them to look at the place from which they will write their future. This place is the Holy Land, Bahal. However, the land is on fire and they get shocked. Gunther jokes about how the last hope of humanity is on fire right now. The scene shifts to a vampire sleeping. He wakes up when someone shouts that Bengal is dead. He asks who's dead, and did an enemy invaded their place. He cries and says he doesn't want to die. His mom tries to calm him down, saying it's nothing. She says that it's unfortunate that Bengal died. She asks if humans are the cause of it. She can't believe that humans could kill him. The pureblood vampire, Julius, tells his subordinate to find out who killed Bengal. He obeys his order from the shadows and leaves soon after. The reason why Bahal is called the Holy Land is because of its perfect topography. It's at the end of the continent and one has to go over the mountains. That's why it didn't grow much, but has a flat region enough to produce its own food. The island is made from rocks and it's hard to enter through the sea. The only way to enter that place is through a 1,200-meter bridge. The bridge can block up to 10 times more than the number of troops stationed there. Gunther asks what's happening to their holy piece of land. It feels like it has been just destroyed. The man says when they left from here, it was perfectly fine. He notices his friend Leo and calls out to him. Leo looks back and feels relieved that he's safe. He was worried as he didn't receive any news. Reno asks if he looks like he would die quickly. Leo then asks Arian how she is. She thanks him for his concern and says she has returned safely now. Leo blushes on the answer and asks if the guy standing next to her is Gunther. He looks at the power source connected and clicks his tongue. Gunther asks what's his problem and Reno says that he's the leader of Wall's defense division. He says that everyone worked hard, so they should come in. They have dealt with the fire now. Gunther asks what has brought this great holy land to such a state. Leo says that the outer part of the bridge has already given up defense. They couldn't manage it because they had been pushed back. Reno says that everything should have been alright as Bengal had been killed. Leo, shocked, asks if they already dealt with Bengal. Gunther smirks and says he took care of him. Leo bites his tongue and Gunther asks what's wrong with him again. He says that once they left the Holy Land, the vampires they had never faced before started invading this place. They had such bizarre appearances and they brutally slaughtered the soldiers. Reno asks if they broke through the gate then. The man replies that it was a close call, but it's now too damaged for the next invasion. He asks Gunther to stand guard till the bridge is repaired. However, Gunther denies his request and Leo asks for the reason. He says that it's better for him to stay in the rear while the meat shields fight in the front. Leo says that's expected of a shameless punk like him. Does he even know how he's able to stand right now? 136 of his colleagues died who volunteered to become a dead knight. The researchers worked tirelessly to build his limbs. It was only possible because they sacrificed countless lives to defend this place. A gladiator like him doesn't know the meaning of sacrifice. He should have become the dead knight instead of him. He'll never acknowledge someone like him. Gunther says that he's a nice, straight, and young man. However, every time he comes across someone like him, he tells them to piss off. This greatly annoys Leo and he pulls out his sword. As expected, Leo didn't stand a chance and Gunther punched him through the wall. The guards rush for Leo's aid and ask if he's alright. Aryan tells him not to act aggressively while the power is connected. Gunther apologizes and says that he's the one who picked a fight. He only did some self-defense. Soon, the sun sets down. Leo patches himself up with loads of bandages and Gunther says that he should have punched him harder. Aryan says that if humans have to win this war, then he can't do it alone, no matter how strong he is. It takes a lot of manpower and resources to make his modified body. Even the modified parts can't be used if they rot. So, a continuous supply of materials and manpower is crucial. She's trying to save as many people as possible. To do that, the Holy Land needs to be protected, so their supply doesn't get cut off. Gunther asks if they want him to be their spearhead. Aryan says that this is the best way to increase their chances of winning this war. Gunther yawns and says he gets it. They should give him a weapon then. Reno presents the modified parts they have. He opens the box and sees there are 2 weapons. Gunther asks if they are joking. Aryan also wonders that they should have more weapons ready by now. Leo apologizes as all their personnel was put into defense and fire control, so they didn't have time to make the weapons. Gunther picks up a weapon and says they should have built something better. Leo says that it's a weapon with immense biting strength. He then checks the next weapon and closes it soon after. He thinks about this weapon being useful as a shield. Aryan says that it's a shell shield. It's stronger than normal steel and resistant to fire. He asks if can't they make something like a bone launcher like he used last time. Even though it has only 6 shots, it's pretty decent. Aryan replies that its production will take more than half a year, as every weapon requires lots of ingredients. He asks if don't they have any other usable weapons and Aryan agrees. It's difficult to obtain raw materials during times of conflict. Leo says that he'll be going on a patrol and Reno says that he has to attend to some personal matters. They should rest up and have a great time together. At night, Gunther checks his sword. He thinks it to be fine and believes they are prepared for battle now. Aryan talks about what Leo said earlier. The 100 people chosen for becoming a dead knight were workers, aristocrats, and royalty. It was decided that he was the most suitable choice. So, he shouldn't worry about what others says about him, she believes in him. Only he can save this world. Gunther replies that he didn't care about that in the first place. She says if that's the case then he's lucky. Gunther says that 136 people died to become a powered human. So, why did she become one after seeing 136 people die for it? Aryan replies that it was something that had to be done. He replies he doesn't get it. Later, Gunther is chilling in a corner while Aryan reads a book. Suddenly, Leo comes in and tells him to get ready. The vampires are back. They soon come toward the front of the gate. Gunther disconnects the power cable and Aryan says that he must come back alive without fail. Gunther nods in agreement and puts on his helmet. He takes out his sword and activates his shield, while the humans head back. He thinks that no matter who comes, he'll tear them apart. Gunther stares into the darkness and a strange-looking vampire shows up. He asks why today's audience only has one person. Gunther looks at his weird movement and wonders if this vampire is twisted. However, it doesn't seem to be moving fast. He believes a leaping attack that strikes with power should do the work. Once he comes closer, he'll finish him off in one move. The vampire says that he'll do his best to satisfy the audience. He carefully prepared part 1 of the act, which is the King of Pigs. Gunther dashes at him with his sword and calls it to be his win. He slashes through him but feels that he didn't make an impact. His aim was correct, then how did he avoid it? The vampire says that he's being rude. He must follow the order of performances. Now, they should begin the first part, King of Pigs and Dwarf Choir. He makes a cut on his hand and enormous amounts of blood come out. He then makes a circus tent out of his blood. Gunther thinks that what Leo told him earlier was true. Soon, a vampire emerges from the tent and strikes Gunther. Gunther defends himself with his new shield and throws him back. Soon, many small vampires emerge out of the circus. Gunther calls them crazy dwarfs and they all charge at him. However, Gunther blocks their attack and cuts them all. He clears off the dwarfs and more rush towards him. Gunther strikes one with his sword but he blocks it. The dwarf feels the overwhelming strength and Gunther increases the pressure and kills him. More charges towards him and he calls them weaklings. He leaps forward and kills multiple dwarfs in one go. He thinks he'll go straight for the leader's neck. As he approaches the tent, a vampire blows out flames at him. Gunther manages to defend himself with his shield. A dwarf comes out while riding on a fat vampire. Gunther says that he now understands why it was called King of Pigs and Dwarf Choir. The dwarf prepares for another round of explosives and throws it towards Gunther. He defends himself with the shield. The dwarf says that the king's fire burns everything into ashes. Gunther slowly starts advancing toward the king. The dwarf wonders how could this be possible and tells the king to increase the firepower. Gunther says this much firepower is a joke to him. He throws his sword and asks if they expect this could kill him. The sword strikes the king's face and he finishes them off with a punch. Gunther picks up his weapon and thinks their circus preparation is lacking a lot. He wonders if there's a better act to the second performance. He steps inside the tent and sees an interesting object when he enters it. He thinks that this place is decorated carefully as well. Such a cozy and lovely venue. The vampire thanks him for coming to see the second performance. This is the first time the audience reached here. He has carefully prepared part 2. Before he could say any further, Gunther slashes at him. He thinks he missed once again. He asks what's happening with his body. The vampire ignores his question and says part 2 performance will now begin. His blood starts to wrap himself up. He says this act is called the Confession of the Suffering Clown Evelyn. He transforms into a weird entity and tells them to enjoy the show. Gunther starts attacking him but he dodges his every attack. He implants his feet on the floor and tosses stones at him. Since he likes to dodge, then he should try to dodge this one. The clown dodges the rocks by twisting his body. He then pulls out 2 weapons from his mouth and starts attacking Gunther. Gunther blocks the attacks with his shield and counterattacks whenever he gets the chance. He thinks that this clown dodges every attack, and wonders how he's supposed to land a direct hit. The clown hurls an attack at him and tosses him out of the tent. Gunther slides on the ground and the clown soon comes out to attack him. Leo watches the battle unfold from the castle and says that Gunther seems to be getting pushed back. It's hard to see him from this far, but his attacks seem to be ineffective. He's almost getting pushed to the front of the bridge. Reno asks to hand him over the binoculars for a bit. Gunther does his best to slice him but clown dodges every attack. Gunther says that he's slippery like a loach. They clash more on the bridge and Arian thinks that this clown is dodging all the attacks. Reno asks if there's anything they could do to help him. Leo says that all their weapons were destroyed in the previous fight. The only thing they can use now is bows. Arian says that Gunther should avoid fights on the bridge. His muscles are incredibly dense and have no fat in them. At the same time, Clown attacks Gunther and knocks him off the bridge. Arian says that if he falls into the water, then Gunther will drown no matter what he does. Luckily, Gunther saves himself just in time by thrusting his sword into the pillar. He heard Arian say that he'd sink if he fell in the water. With this level of current, anybody falling in it would drown. He looks at his remaining time and sees it to be quite less. He thinks it's going to be a tough fight. He gets back on top of the bridge and starts sparring with Clown again. He thinks that this vampire is strong, he can't compare him to the vampire he fought before. However, now it's almost time that Arian and the bald man do something about it. Leo shouts at Gunther to retreat now. Gunther obliges and rushes back inside the gate. The guards close the door quickly and one tells him to go over there. Gunther asks if retreating was their strategy. Couldn't they think of something else while he was fighting Clown? Reno says that they worked hard to come up with this plan. Their strategy is to hold out till sunrise. They don't have siege weapons and materials, so only he can fight the high-rank vampires. They have about 5 hours until sunrise and the maximum time he can stay active is 2 hours. He should come back and refuel before the 2 hours are up. Reno says he'll change his arm for now. Gunther asks if this is the only way. Arian agrees and says this is quite a fatal flaw in their strategy. It takes longer than he thinks to charge him fully. Filling his cell for 2 hours takes about 20 minutes. Plus, he needs to be in a stable state to get fully charged. They will have to protect him and Arian in the meantime. He asks how will he do that. He hears the door cracking and sees Leo standing out there. He closes the door and tells his men to prepare themselves to face high-ranking vampire. They have to endure 20 minutes, no matter what. Gunther asks if he's out of his damn mind. They have seen him fight the high-rank vampires, ordinary humans don't stand a chance against them. They all will die and Reno agrees. All of them knew the risks and chose to fight. The soldiers prepare themselves for what's about to come. Leo thinks if they don't burn here and now, who else will end this darkness? The gate breaks and they hear the sound of people crying and dying. It's unbearable for everyone. Outside the room, the clown pins down Leo on the ground. He was about to kill him when Gunther came out. He says that he's careless. Did he ever imagine a person would jump out of a wall? Leo asks why he came out here. He still needed time to recharge. The man thinks that Gunther's attack worked after he changed his arm. Gunther says they will take this somewhere else. He takes him outside the castle and says that the venue for the Part 3 show will be under the sea. Once under the water, Gunther attacks the clown. He thinks his attack worked. He asks Clown if it's hard for him to handle an environment like this. He grabs him by his left hand and says he'll crush his heart. The clown screeches in pain and attacks Gunther's arm. He destroys Gunther's left arm, so he uses his right arm to rip him into pieces. Clown attacks him in the stomach with a sword, but Gunther still continues fighting him. They soon reach the bottom of the ocean floor. Clown tries to escape from the ocean, but Gunther grabs him back. He bites him with his teeth and says this much won't kill him. He rips apart his flesh and it exposes his heart. Clown tries to finish him off while Gunther tries to bite his heart down. The scene then shifts to Gunther's past life. A woman says that no one came to save him from that garbage dump. She heard some noise coming from that area while she was passing by. He was dying and called out with all of his strength. It was a relief that he was all right. She believed that people don't want to be born into this world, then how did he find a reason to live there? As he grew up, he became strong and defeated all his opponents in the arena. He asks her the meaning of all of this. The woman replies that this is revenge. He has the strength and right to live. Those that birthed and abandoned him are his enemies. She asks if he understood it and he agrees. She then tells him to prepare for the next fight. It's time that he proves his will. At the present moment, Gunther's head lies by the shore, unconscious. A guard informs others that his head is here. It seems that he floated here by luck thanks to his head being cut off from his heavy body. The condition seems to be fine. Arian picks him up and feels relieved. She thinks that he has survived this time too. Leo tells her to take him quickly, the fight isn't over yet. Later, they take back Gunther and attach the power cord. Gunther tries to say something and Reino wonders what's wrong with him. Arian says that he can't speak because he doesn't have a torso. He needs to wait while the production of his body and limbs is finished. She tells him to stop wriggling like a baby. Gunther gets back his body and says that the fight was annoying. He asks what happened to the vampire and Leo says that he's probably still alive. Gunther says that he remembers biting his heart. Leo says that he hoped what he was saying was true. But they found footprints of a woman coming up from the sea. They presumed it to be the high-ranking vampire he fought. He followed the trail and found a suspicious carriage. They were waiting for him as they couldn't compete with her. Gunther says that he must have misunderstood it. He bit her heart with his teeth. Leo suggests he check out the carriage for safety before sunset. They soon reach the pointed location. After looking at the carriage, Gunther admits that it's very suspicious. Leo suggests that he enter it then. Gunther approaches the carriage and sees some fresh footprints. All the windows are blocked as well, which makes it seem more like a vampire hideout. Even if there's a high-ranking vampire inside, he has the advantage as the sun is out. If things go wrong, he'll wreck this place. They must have low-level vampires to protect him in that case. He approaches the door and thinks it's very quiet. He enters the carriage and sees it to be empty. Suddenly, the door behind him shuts down, and a vampire attacks him. Gunther defends himself from the incoming attack and throws one dwarf out of the carriage. He holds another one hostage and tells them to stop. The dwarf says that he's the one who killed the king of pigs. Gunther says that they are too weak to be vampires. The dwarf asks what he's here for. Most of them have a hard time fighting and are failures with broken bodies. They can't beat him. Gunther says he must be joking. He killed humans without hesitation. The dwarf replies that they promised to get rid of all the humans. He will guide him to the last performance if that's the case. Gunther follows him while many dwarfs look at him from the dark. He says that they are not even real pigs and this noise is driving him crazy. The dwarf replies that their merchant wanted them to be fat pigs. Only that way they make a good product. Gunther thinks that makes sense now. They'll introduce him to the last and most beautiful product, Evelyn. Gunther notices him to be the same vampire and says he doesn't seem to have any intention. Evelyn says that he's the Mr. Audience they met yesterday. He asks how he's still alive when he ripped his heart apart. Evelyn says that he only bit a part of his heart. Vampires don't die unless their heart is completely destroyed. Their source of strength lies in the heart. If it's not intact, then they can't use the blood as a weapon. Gunther thanks him for the overly kind explanation and says that he's just firewood that burns in the sun. He attacks him with his sword and says he'll not survive this time. Outside the carriage, the humans wait for him. Leo asks how much time Gunther has left and the man replies about 50 minutes. He suggests they enter the carriage in 10 minutes if he doesn't come out. A man asks if those vampires were once human. He heard the story about children disappearing in the city. While searching for missing kids, they found a strange facility. That place didn't have sunlight and had numerous tools for breaking human bones. They found twisted skeleton bodies piled up like a mountain. Another person's curiosity piques and he asks for more. The man says that it was a place where products were made. They sold bizarre humans by deforming their size. The other man says he must be joking. He replies that he heard only rumors. Rich merchants and nobles bought those products. The man asks how could they do such a cruel thing to a person. Who knows, maybe they did it for fun. Some of the survivors were sold to a circus as well. If the story is true, then the city they are defending is against deformed humans. Inside the carriage, Gunther slashes at Evelyn but he dodges the attack. Evelyn says that people carved and crushed his bones. Even when he cried for them to kill him, they tortured him more. However, one day they suddenly released him. He asked why they tormented him with pain all the time. How could they have given him freedom so easily? They simply said that the craze of experimenting on vampires was over. He asks Mr. Audience one last question: what's trending these days? Gunther thinks it's a good question and ponders over it. He replies what's trending is that no matter what happens he'll survive till the end. He sheathes his sword and says this is a man's story. Evelyn says that it was also a tough and lonely performance for him. The carriage bursts out and he kills himself. Gunther looks at his ashes and leaves the place. Later, a few men discuss how 2 high-ranking vampires were killed in Bahal. Another man can't believe it and asks how's that possible. He replies they build some sort of weapon. He asks how many high-ranking vampires are there in total. He replies there are 8. This means there are 6 left and they all are heading to Bahal. They heard there was a shortage of supply, so they should help them too. The man asks why should they help him, people of Bahal don't treat them well and they have a better terrain. Besides, vampires hate water. Has he ever heard of vampires crossing the ocean? They suddenly hear a loud thud nearby. When they look out, they see a tall silhouette of a tall figure. They wonder what is that. The scene shifts to Gunther getting dressed up. He asks what's the meaning of this. Are they having a festival when humanity is almost doomed? Arian replies that they are celebrating because he killed 2 high-rank vampires. The lady is visiting a region outside of here. Gunther asks why they are referring to her as a lady. Is she that great of a person? Reno agrees, she's currently ruling Bahal City. He tells him not to say anything strange to her. Otherwise, it's going to be a headache, so he should just bear it. Soon the lady's carriage arrives at Bahal. A man shouts at the people to bow their heads in honor. The Majesty Queen Olivia Hound has appeared. Everyone bows and greets the Majesty, except for Gunther. Queen says that this place is dusty and has a strange smell. The man apologizes and says he'll educate the people here. Gunther says that this is to be expected at a place on the battlefield and Reno nudges him to stop. She asks if he's the corpse knight, Engel. The man corrects her that it's Gunther. She looks closely at his face and says he looks ugly because of his modified body. He has already dealt with 2 high-ranking vampires. So, she came here to commend him for his feat. She suggests that they go in and talk as this place is dirty. Once inside, she says that the interior is also dirty. The man says that he'll punish the people in charge. However, the queen says it's fine as it's a wartime situation. She asks Gunther what kind of reward he wants. Arian speaks up and says they need more manpower and material support. Many officials were doubtful about their corpse knight plan. However, it turned out a success and is turning the tides in their favor. It still requires a lot of manpower and support to build a modified body. If your Majesty trusts and supports them, then they can take the steps to reach their goals faster. The queen asks if she's the one supposed to speak. However, she'll acknowledge their merits and ask how she can support them with the limited resources. As the ruler of Bahal, she must prepare for the future safely by investing in various possibilities. For now, the best she can give is something important that can never be changed. Gunther asks what she's yapping about. Reno says that she thought this plan was bound to fail, so she invested in other weapons. The queen says that maybe their decision wasn't wrong. Arian asks to give official recognition to the people who sacrificed themselves to become a powered human. The man says she's being rude. The queen tells him to stay put. She tells them that the research and development of the corpse knight was supposed to be carried out in secret. The barbaric and hideous method of using a corpse as a knight would stain the honor of the royal family. Therefore, hiding the existence of a corpse knight would be better for the sake of mankind. As for his reward, she'll give him some fertile land in southern territory. If he agrees with this, then he needs to kiss the back of her hand. Gunther looks at her hand and says he can't stand this anymore. They are in a situation where they don't know when they will die. Plus, they are being preached about pride and honor. They have brought in a crazy woman claiming to be a queen. He claims that humanity is screwed anyway. Arian tells him to shut up and Reno apologizes in his place. Gunther has a rough mouth. The queen gets irritated and tells him to shut up. Suddenly, Leo barges in and says they are in great trouble. He says they are in danger as a massive creature is coming towards Bahal. Later that night, Reno asks why he went insane while meeting the Majesty. Gunther replies that they'll be dead without him. He won't give respect to that woman. Arian asks the escaped man if his place was destroyed in one night and he agrees. That thing appeared and destroyed everything instantly. It only took him a few punches. Gunther says that it doesn't make any sense and Reno says that it's coming here. He looks at the tall creature and wonders just what he is. He says that it's a freaking giant. The Titan slowly approaches them, crushing things in his way. Gunther asks how that thing could be a vampire. Arian replies that they use blood as power and have the will of a vampire. A high-ranking vampire with a strong power can use their blood to create anything with it. That's vampire name is probably Miranda. The escaped man explains that he destroyed the walls of the capital. Their attacks didn't work on that monster as its skin was almost impenetrable. Arian says that she heard rumors, but seeing it in reality is overwhelming. As this Titan is quite famous, so many records and research is done to find his weakness. Gunther says that humanity has done at least one job properly. He asks for its weakness. Arian replies that he doesn't have a weakness. Gunther replies that humanity is trash anyway. They rush outside in a carriage with guards surrounding it. Arian says that humans don't know where his heart is. Its skin was so hard that it couldn't be pierced in any way. Gunther says if he invades Bahal then it would be destroyed in minutes. Arian says that humanity considered him the biggest threat and she kept a close eye on him. Gunther asks if there's any information about where the monster is heading. Reno replies that they are clueless themselves. Titan moves alone spontaneously. Since he's a high-ranking vampire, so it will burn when exposed to the sun. Gunther asks how he hides when the sun is up. Arian replies that he shifts into another form. The only way to kill him would be when it's in another form. Gunther sighs and says it's like a game of hide and seek. Reno says that the Titan won't arrive at Bahal today. They still have a day to make preparations. At the current rate, he's expected to hide around this ruined village with many buildings. If they don't find him there, there's a high probability that it will break into Bahal the next day. The winner of the battle will be decided in that place. They soon approach the place and see a massive footprint. Gunther says that the footprint ended here, and wonders where he could be hiding. Leo says that this village has about 120 households. They'll start an investigation from the south while he starts from the north. He asks where rest of the troops are, as this is supposed to be an important matter. The man replies that the queen put rest of the man into the production of defensive weapons. Gunther smirks and says that she likes pride over humanity, how amusing. Leo says they can't do anything in that case, they should start searching. They don't know where and how it would be hiding. So, they should go in groups of 5. The man soon starts searching everything for the vampire. Gunther bursts through a door and enters a household. He thinks that it's a steel Titan. He must have been a big boy when he was a human. He's looking for a wide space rather than a cramped one. He crushes a door and says this is the type of place where he should be. The sun soon begins to set and the man informs that they are not here either. Reno thinks that now there are only a few houses left. He wonders if this wasn't the right strategy. Arian says that he could be hiding in a form that's difficult to imagine. The man says that the sun is setting and this would be a problem. Gunther stomps a barrel in anger and thinks he can't find anything after searching 10 households. He notices something pass by quickly. He bursts through the glass and chases after the figure. The figure stops in a corner and he sees it be some sort of monster.